Welcome. I'm so glad that you've decided to join us tonight. And we've got a very special friend of mine that's a guest with us tonight. And I'm so excited to have her. It's Shawn Patterson. But I want to tell you a little about her. She's from Atlanta, Georgia, and is with the Path Church, which is a very special congregation to us. And, you know, in my life, I look at Shawn as the person who shows up. In fact, I call her the one who shows up. In my life, she always shows up. And maybe you've got those people. I hope you do. But I have besides my family, of course, I have people that just when I really need them, or I don't even know that I need them, they show up. And Shawn has always been one of those people in my life. I remember when I was diagnosed with a very serious diagnosis, cancer, and at the time they said terminal, back 10 years ago. And it was a really hard time, and I got messages and people well wishes, and prayers, and I'm so grateful for all of them. But Shawn and Mike got on a plane and flew to my house. I flew to Portland, and she came in my house and sat down on my sofa. I'll never forget. She crossed her legs, sat down on my sofa, and said, "I had to see you. I had to see your eyes for myself." And I just wept, and it was amazing time, and I was so grateful. But I've never forgotten that she wanted to really just see me in person, and I think that we all need those people that care, that care deeply, and that is Shawn. She loves hard. And I don't know if that communicates to you, but that's how I think of her. She loves hard, like it's deep, it's real, it's passionate. And she also, is just a woman of dreams. And she even wrote her book, Women Who Dare to Dream. And I love how her relationship with God is so amazing and real, and her love for people is real. In this dreams, this idea of dreams, though, this encapsulates who she is. She really believes in a great God. She has a big faith, and she believes God can do anything with any one of us, no matter how small we are or feel, or how invisible, like we talked about once this week, that we feel, that God can really work in our lives. And and she's given a lot of vision to a lot of women in the church. And honestly, over the years, she's really given people a lot of vision for their lives, to do something great in the church, do something great with spiritual dreams for God. And so that's the reason I thought of her tonight, and I'm so excited that she's here to be with us. Shawn, welcome. It's good to have you. What is going on in Atlanta? How are you? How's your shoulder? I know you've been in pain. We're grateful to have you, but tell us what's going on.
I am so excited to get to be with the Portland Church today. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Atlanta, Georgia. So good to be here. So good to see you, Lisa. So good to see you, and to hear you. Just hearing you, getting to listen to you just now took me back 30 something years. Because you are the woman that inspired me to dream big and to see God as big. And I will never, ever, ever forget that. And I will always be grateful for that. And I will always come because Mike and I feel like we owe you and Steve so much. Just planning the church in New York, me being from the Bronx, and learning the truth at 20 years old, and having the opportunity to serve in the church and dream big, and just have the opportunity of a lifetime. So we're indebted to you and Steve. My husband loves your husband so much. And you are people that stick. Like you, how could I not be a friend to you? You have loved me unconditionally and constantly through the years. And so I am just bubbling with gratitude And we actually thought about getting on a plane to come out there this year, but we'll probably be coming next year to see you because we want to see you and be with you. But so grateful for this opportunity. We are doing well here in Atlanta. We're sheltering in and taking advantage of the opportunity here and learning. I'm learning Instagram and all the different platforms to get to speak to my people and love people. And, I have pray that I don't have another rotator cuff injury, but we're coming along with that. So I'm grateful just that we're safe, we're well, and the church is doing well through all of this and staying close and continuing to get the message out. So just happy to be here with you all tonight. Hi, Buzz and Anita. I love you so much. I had to say that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. They will love that. Well, you need to make sure you tell you and yours that we love them as well.
Okay.
Well, we're thankful that you're willing to share your time with us, donate your time to us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. I just love getting to hang out with you anytime. I mean, I'd love to talk to you every day.
Yes.
I'm so glad to get this time.
So am I.
Well, that's wonderful. I know that tonight we have a topic, and Jesus chose to see her first. And it's 2020. We're thinking in terms of vision and seeing how we see, but it's interesting to think of Jesus choosing Mary Magdalene to see first. And so that's where we're going to sort of start tonight. So I was going to read the scripture and share a few thoughts about that. And then, just kind of get your insight into it. Okay. Well, in John 20, anybody out there, if you want to turn over there, that'd be great. At the beginning of the chapter, we see that, Mary has stayed through the excruciating cross. She has stayed through the crucifixion. And we've talked about that this week. She has stayed through the execution and watched every bit of the suffering until he died. She stayed with him until he died, which is an incredible thing all by itself.
Yes.
And so then she, followed the body. We talked about that last night, that she followed the body of Jesus. She didn't leave him all the way to the tomb, and then she watched how they laid his body in the tomb. She stuck with him. She was truly an eyewitness of his death for real, and the body. And then she stayed as late as they would let her, and or that she was able to, and then she had to go because it was going to be the Sabbath, and she had to leave. And so after the Sabbath, she rushes back at daybreak as early as possible to get back to where she thinks he's been laid. And she gets there and the body's gone. And so, can you imagine thinking, what in the world? She had hoped, she and a few of the other women had brought the oils to anoint his body. It was like her one last, time maybe in her mind to be able to serve him, to do something for him. And she gets there and he's gone. So then, she runs and tells the crew. She runs and tells everybody. And they just, jump and run. And it talks about Peter and John, hurry back to the tomb to see for themselves. And he's gone. And then let's take up in verse 10. I want to start reading in chapter 20 of the Gospel of John in verse 10. It says, then the disciples went back to their homes. So after all this, they've been at the cross, at the tomb together, knowing that the body's gone, but they all leave. Okay, Peter and John leave. And it says in verse 11, but Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. And they asked her, woman, why are you crying? They have taken my Lord away, she said, and I don't know where they put him. At this point, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't realize it was Jesus. Woman, he said, why are you crying? Who is it you're looking for? It's almost like he's coaxing her, letting her in easily.
Wow.
Thinking he was the gardener, she said, Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you put him and I will get him. He said to her, Mary. Can you imagine? He said her name, Mary. And she turned toward him. She recognized him. And she cried out in Aramaic, Rabboni, which is my teacher. My teacher. She went from being heartbroken to being probably incredibly overwhelmed. My teacher. And Jesus said to her, do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I'm returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news. I have seen the Lord. Can you imagine? She had seen Jesus alive after watching him suffer and die and be laid in this tomb. So I can just, to go from that kind of incredible heartbreak to this kind of overwhelming joy and probably fear in some ways and exhilaration. It's really incredible to think what all she experienced that day.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've wondered, why did he choose her? He chose to see her first. This wasn't an accident. We know Jesus. He didn't do things accidentally. This is the most important event in human history. It didn't happen sort of, kind of unplanned. This is Jesus. And he says he waited till the men left. There was a crew that ran to find out where the body had gone. He let them all leave. And then he appears to Mary. And I have asked myself over the past years, why was that? What is that message? I've also asked, there were a lot of curious things about this. The fact that, his birth came with hosts of angels proclaiming him. And, it just overwhelmed the shepherds that were in the field and all of that. Can you imagine? It seems like for this resurrection, there would have been something like that. But it's not what he chose. He chose for it to be a different kind of setting. He waited till the group left, till the men were gone. And he could have appeared while they were still there. And there was John and Peter. These were some of the main people that were going to preach about him. But he waited. And he just appeared to Mary. I think that it's pretty amazing, especially, when I say, well, why? Because women, their testimony was not really valid in a court of law for the most part back then. Like they weren't considered a valid eyewitness in court. And so it wasn't that he was looking for, this like most credible witness. And so he wanted to make sure he did that first. Not at all, because that wouldn't have been women. But, some of you that have been studying with me the last couple of years, the word azer, okay? And that's why, God called woman when he created her. And, instead, Jesus had this little group of azers, this group of women that were around him at the cross, followed him to the tomb, and then were there at the resurrection. So, she does. She goes back, she runs back, and she tells them, I have seen the Lord. And she tells them that he says to go to Galilee and that he will meet them there. They will see him there in Galilee. And so, but they don't believe her. In fact, one of the gospel writers says that it was not, that it sounded like nonsense, and I don't blame them a bit. I mean, if somebody showed up after we had just buried them and and whatever, I can't imagine somebody running in saying, I just talked to him, don't worry. We would think that's crazy, right? So I think that, but when Jesus first appears, he goes on into Galilee and he does appear to the whole group and to the men. But the first thing he does is he rebukes them. In Mark 16, it says he rebukes them for their stubborn refusal to believe the witnesses. And I thought, wow, it's like all this paints a picture. Jesus had a point. I really believe that he made a point, and I don't want us to miss it. It was such an important event. It was the most important event in the world, the history of the world, and the most important message. And yet he commissioned her to deliver it. He authorized her to go and tell. Over the decades, centuries, she has been called the apostle to the apostles. And of course, the word apostle means the sent one, and so she was the one Jesus decided he wanted to appear to, and then he sent her to tell them. And so I just think that's a beautiful sort of picture of him choosing her. And as a woman, it was such an honor to be chosen, to be the witness, that witness, and so special. And I've kind of wondered if maybe it didn't have to do with a couple of things. One, that she could relate to all that pain. And because, that battling Satan, she was demon possessed. So I would imagine that she really had some clue about battling Satan in darkness and getting out of darkness. And yet that's what Jesus had just been through, right? That's what the cross was all about. It was about taking the sin of the world, dying on himself. I mean, putting it on himself and dying with it, dying with all that sin. We can even hear the pain when he fulfills the scripture and, quotes the verse, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's like that separation from God because of the sin, and God couldn't have fellowship with that sin. So this was a spiritual battle. This was a powerful battle that was happening on the cross and in the death of Jesus and in the grave and then to be resurrected. And so I've thought maybe she was just maybe comforting as he came out of that. He chose her and that little group with her to be with for a moment and to just say, hey, I'm here. I made it, And I know her battle was nothing like his, but sometimes, the human part of us, we just, God says in the beginning, it's not good for man to be alone. And in Jesus' humanity, maybe it wasn't good for him to be alone, So I look at that, I think maybe that was part of it, but also that he chose a woman. I think he was making a point that the kingdom is for everybody, and that we're all going to testify to his death and resurrection. We all can make a difference, that it's not going to be an old boys club or whatever, but it's for everybody, every kind of person, and men and women. And so I look at that and I just think this is it's powerful. So Shawn, I'm glad that you're with us. And, I would love for you to tell us, like, what you think about this. Like, what is your take on this? But especially, what does it mean for us today? Like, how does this help her? He believed in her and he entrusted her with a message. And, but he did that for her, but he loves all of us. So I believe that he believes in all of us and trusts all of us. And so how does him believing in us help us to kind of overcome our fear, overcome our unbelief, even sometimes when that is the unbelief in ourselves?
Right, right.
Anyway, I would love your thoughts.
Well, I just I just enjoyed listening to you teach that and share. And it just really, really reminded me of how good God is, how really good Jesus is, and how much he does meet us where we're at and take us to great places. And I love talking about this sister. I love Mary Magdalene. I remember 30 years ago when first meeting her and thinking that was just about the most inspiring thing I've read in the Bible, one of the most inspiring things, one of the most inspiring women. And I could really relate, to her. Um, I love her. I feel a bond with her because I know what it feels like to be in darkness, to be tortured, I don't know how many demons I had when I met Jesus 30 years ago, but I know he had to drive some out of me. And I, I remember feeling so chosen and so blessed that Jesus would have me. And that's one of the things that you always would remind us of, that it's just thank you, God, for having us. But you don't just have us, you want to use us in amazing ways. And when I think about Mary Magdalene, I think, wow, what vision God had for her and the plan that he had for her life. I believe that it was all about love. Like when Mary found Jesus, she found the lover of her soul. And after meeting him, there was nowhere to go. There was nothing left. And it reminds me of Romans 5, where it says, you see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person. Though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. You know, I just love that about God, that there's nothing too bad. You're not too far gone. There's no hopeless situation. God is bigger than that. And what he did when he found her was change her forever, love her so deeply that that love would fill her and just overflow. And so when she experienced that love personally, she said, I found the one. And I will follow him to the cross. I'll follow him to the grave. I will preach about him. I will teach about him. I will learn. I will lead. I will serve. I will go anywhere, do anything because of him. And I will face my fears. When I think about this and I think about this time, it wasn't easy for her to it be in that group and follow Jesus and take care of the needs. It was very challenging, even as a woman. And she risked her life. She risked everything to follow Jesus and take care of his needs and the needs of the other disciples because of her gratitude. And when I think about the fact that Jesus chose her to appear to, um, I just think that love and that gratitude, he felt it for her. She felt it for him. It was about this relationship that would go beyond the grave. And I love that about Jesus, that if you want that with him, you can have that with him. He wants that with you. And this love that she had for him drove out fear. Now, I know, especially right now, there's a lot going on with this COVID-19, and we're going out the house with masks and gloves, and battling even this fear, thinking about the news that's coming in. And all I can do right now is go back to Jesus's love for me, how he's with me, he loves me. Doesn't mean that everything's going to be easy, doesn't mean that there's not going to be trouble, doesn't mean that I won't get sick, doesn't mean that other people around me won't be hurt. That's not what that means. It just means that, wow, with this love, it'll be okay because he's with me. Like with him, I can be more than a conqueror because of the love that he has for me. You know, I don't know, Lisa, if you can relate to that. Just if you feel that just because you know how much he loves you, you'll be okay. It might be challenging. There might be hard times, but because he loves you and it's you and him, there's no stopping you.
Oh, absolutely. It's like it's this understanding that, as you walk with God for years, it's like you begin to realize that sometimes he says yes, sometimes he says no, and that he relates to that because in the garden, he was begging God for this cup to pass from him, but the answer was no. So even
Mm,
Jesus got that answer no sometimes, and so he literally relates to everything we're going through. And
mhm,
so I think of that because I feel it makes me feel like I can do anything, like I can get through anything, but it
mhm.
doesn't mean I'm not going to be in pain.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm not going to suffer or that I'm going to get yes to all my requests. I can't treat him like he's Santa Claus, like give me this, give me that.
Mhm,
Like sometimes his answer is just no. And so some of the people that we're praying for to get better, they might not. But we have to accept that God's way is right. He knows best. And but getting through those times with him is a whole lot easier than trying to get through those times without him. And the
mhm.
bad stuff's going to come whether we're with him or not.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I think that's so true. And I think in Jesus, I love what you shared about in terms of she this woman had so much to give in the kingdom. She had so much talent, so much love, and I believe that when he appeared to her, it was almost like him saying, you know, I see you and I'm with you. And I want to entrust this message to you because I believe that you will go and tell it and share it like it needs to be shared. And it just reminds me of the fact that when he chooses us and he uses us and he has a plan for us. And that, that scripture about your chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, so that you might declare his praises. We are chosen, not just Mary Magdalene, every single one of us. And we have a purpose and we have something to do for God. And we are here for a reason. And so we've got to be like her in that. I love that. I don't think anybody had to tell her, okay, Mary, so, this is your talent. Come serve us and help take care of us. And, it seems like she, out of her heart and out of her love and out of her gratitude for God, she used everything that she had to serve. And I think that's the call of the hour for us in the church right now. There are so many needs, and we are needed. Those of us that have been called by God, saved by God to serve Him, we got to get in the trenches and be like her. Um, it's almost like she was touched by Him, and then she just went, and her message and her life went beyond him. I mean, he had gone back to heaven and she was still there serving and loving, and we're the same. It's like um we have things to do in our churches. Um as the women, we have gifts and talents, and a lot of times we tend to use them in the world, and then we use them all up in the world, and then we say, I don't know how I can be used in the kingdom. I don't know if anybody wants me to use my gifts in the kingdom. Well, I think after reading this today, we understand that Jesus wants us to use our gifts in the kingdom for him, and he's commissioned us, and we've got to look around and just say, God, what have you given me that I could give back to you to help your kingdom be glorious? And that's one of the things that Lisa inspired me so much about, is that every one of us has something for God that we can do and how we can be used. And so we got to explore that. And the way we explore it is by we start giving what we have to others. And God continues to make that clearer. for us. Thank you for sharing that with me, Lisa, many years ago, teaching me that.
Well, I love the chooses uses. That's fantastic. I do. I love that, and I know that, and I appreciate you issuing that kind of thought out there, putting that out there that we need to use our gifts and talents in the kingdom, because that's something that I do think that God's calling all of us to do right now. It's
Mhm,
like it's time to reflect His light. You know,
mhm.
we're supposed to have that light and reflect it to the world, and right now the world really
That's right.
needs hope. So I think that, even, but sometimes I think we doubt ourselves. What do I really have to give? What can I really
Mhm,
do? And in this
mhm,
time, especially when we're all inside, that can be, hard. And I know that's one of the reasons we decided to do this series. We've got little invites, like Evite kind of things, that we can invite our neighbors to come in. And we're thinking, well, at least we could maybe encourage them a little bit or with that. But I know that even after this time, and we get back to whatever life is going to look like afterwards, when we can actually hug each other and be together, it still will be that question of, do I doubt myself? What do I have to get? It's time to rethink some things maybe for different.
mhm,
And what can I do? What can I do that I can use my gift to help people, to make a difference in people's lives. So I
mhm.
don't know if you have any advice for us about that, about believing in ourselves and not, not holding back. Like, how do we get over that self-doubt, maybe?
Mhm,
Hopeless feeling a little bit, like, what am I good for? Or I don't know, maybe there's something about that.
mhm. I in thinking about this, I think that Mary Magdalene became who she became because she realized that Jesus was the God of all hope. Like he was, if she had him, she had everything, and that he was, he was hope to her, and that's what the Bible says. God is. God is hope,
Yes.
and so um, in Him, I mean, we can doubt ourselves and we can have those thoughts, but it's always got to come back to God is hope. And because Jesus rose from the dead, we get to have every hope in Him. And days may be challenging and we may feel different things, but the truth is that, I mean, the Bible says if we have hope only for this life, we're to be pitied, right?
Right.
So our hope goes much further than this. It's about eternity. So I think that we've got to, in that dream bigger, it's not just about here, it's about eternity, and kind of get up out of ourselves and start, thinking about other people. And if we just engage and have conversations with people, with our friends, with our neighbors, with our coworkers, with the people in our little small groups, in our ministries, we begin to see the needs. We begin to see how, okay, wow, this sister's really sick and she's, home alone, and maybe I'm really good at making soup and I can bring the soup over there. Or, wow, this sister really needs encouragement. This brother really needs encouragement. I'm really good at writing cards. Maybe I can. But once we've got to get in there and just, I love what's sort of happening in the country right now, where the theme is like we're in this together. Like the country's kind of realizing we're in this together. Well, Christians, we're in this together, and
Yes.
we understand that every part of the body is important. And so it's just time to start looking outward and listening to God. If we ask God to give us that wisdom and insight, He's giving it to us. And now we've just got to step out there, because sometimes we know we're like, I think I can help out in this situation. They need some digital help. They need some help learning about Instagram. I've been watching their productions. I'm talking about me. They may need a little help. Yes, we may need a little help. You can ask that question. There's so much. I mean, we have folks that right now everybody needs encouragement. Like everybody needs encouragement. So even if you just picked up the phone, shared a word of encouragement, If you sang a little song, if you can sing, if you can, maybe you can't sing or you can't, you don't write letters, but you want to send a text. There's always ways to give of yourself. Um, and very often, if you just ask your friends as well, like, what do you see in me? What do you see my gifts are? They can even help you with that. But what I agree with Lisa, like right now, it's very important that all of us are learning to share who we are and what God has given us. And that's how I see it. It's like God has given us this. God has blessed us. It's a shame if I'm not sharing that and trying to use it and trying to even better my strengths and my gifts to use it more for God. Um, but I think Mary Magdalene is such an inspiration. And the women that she was with a group of women. She had her small group. She had her sisters, and they were working hard and they were risking their lives. And they didn't get a lot of accolades. And, there's not a lot of classes written about them and, people talking about them. But God saw them, and God lifted them up, and God lifted Mary up. And that's what's really, really important, is what God sees. I love when Mary says, I have seen the Lord. I love that, because I think that's what it's all about. I have seen the Lord. I've seen what God has done in my life to call me, to save me, to help me live this life for 30 years, to use me to impact my family and help my mom become a Christian and help my dad become a Christian and help, some of Mike's family become Christians, help my kids become Christians. I have seen the Lord. I've seen the Lord even in the hard times. Like last year was one of the most difficult times for us as a family. My son was basically missing, okay, for almost a year. We knew he was somewhere in California. Now we live in Atlanta, and he went to California to start his life, or basically we didn't know where he was or what he was doing. And I just had to go to my God. I just had to cry out to him, cling to him, pray, call out to him with the scriptures, ask these impossible prayers like, God, I'm taking care of other people's kids. Please take care of mine. Please find someone to take care of mine. And when I tell you, it was a year of miracles, like strangers, angels, meeting my son, taking care of him, calling us. Till now, my son is back in Atlanta. My son is in some programs where he's really working on his life. But when I say that I I have seen the Lord work in my life, I have. And I think for you, I mean, it's the same. It's have you seen him? And because you've seen him, how will you live? How will you serve? Who will you love? And it kind of all comes down to that. So that's why she inspires me so much.
Wow. You had me choked up. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you shared all this with us. I could talk to you all night.
Thank you. I could listen to you, Lisa. I miss you.
Miss you too. I really do miss you. Oh, I wish you lived next door. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes. Yes.
Love it. But anyway, I thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing with us tonight. This has been such a wonderful time, and just to get a glimpse of how your faith is and how you look at things, it just is encouraging to our hearts.
Thank you.
It really is. So thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Portland Church. I love you so much. And I'm so grateful to have spent this time with you. Have a great rest of your time. I love you.
Okay, well, good night.
Good night.
Well, It was wonderful to have Shawn with us, wasn't it? It was just so you know how inspiring she's in. She's been out and she's done our women's events and things, and so and hopefully they were planning to come this year, and so I'm hoping that that she will get to come next year at least. So, but I wanted to just make a comment here. I've received lately, the last while, um, quite a few women that have gotten a hold of me, emailed me mostly or texted and told me that they really feel like that God's given them some gifts that they want to use and that they really are not sure how to use them in the kingdom. And some of them have said, I've been given the gift of teaching and preaching and I really want to do that, or I've been given the gift of leadership or whatever, but they've been sharing different things. It's like ways they want to use the talents and the gifts that they feel like they've been given, but they're not sure how. And so I just want to tell them, wherever you are out there, that don't give up. Jesus is very clear that he loves all of us, he believes in all of us, and he will help us. He will help us to make a difference. And he wants all of us to teach about Jesus and to point everybody to the light and to be the ones that reflect his light. And so just keep giving your all and giving your best, and don't feel like you have to hold anything back. And during this time, pray that God will help you figure out ways, maybe new ways that you haven't even thought of, to use some of those gifts. Well, you know that tomorrow night we are going to come to the Friday night devotional that we're planning. And so I want to invite all of you to that. It will be live streamed. It will be Dion Davis speaking, and we will have a time of worship and song and a time together to really be together. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And she'll be speaking on "I have seen the Lord," she proclaimed. That hashtag "She Proclaimed 2020." So maybe you've been seeing some of that. But I just want to offer a real invitation. We would love all of you to come, and for you to invite all your friends to come and join us. We would love to have a lot of your neighbors come and just join us online. There's an Evite, and you can go to the church website and find all kinds of stuff, and the Portland Church Facebook page too. But we would love to just maybe serve in that way. But anyway, it's been wonderful to be with you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow night at 7. Bye.